let's go ahead and factor another quadratic expression where the leading coefficient is not 1. So this time let's factor 3x squared minus 8x plus 5. So just like before, we're going to put our big X down here. And because we have a positive 3x squared and then minus 8x and then plus 5, okay, so minus 8x plus 5, what that tells us is we're going to have a minus sign here and a minus sign here. Okay, that's how that correspondence works there. So positive something on the x squared, minus an 8x, then plus a 5, gives us a minus and a minus here. Okay, now what goes in here? So here, well, 3 is just 1 times 3. That's the only way we can break it up there. And 5 is just 1 times 5. Okay? Now we're going to do what we did before. Okay, so we have 1 times 3 and 1 times 5. Now we want to multiply, so we have 4 numbers here. We want to multiply together in some way so that we get a number here and a number here. And then when we add those two numbers together, we're going to get negative 8. Okay? So we really don't have a whole lot of possibilities to try. So what if we tried, for example, 1 times 1 and 3 times 5? Well, then we would have 1 and 15. So if we did that, we'd have 1 here, 15 here. So negative 1 plus negative 15 is negative 1 minus 15, which gives us negative 16, which is actually not what we want. So that's not going to work. Okay, so we have to try some other combination. So let's get rid of this to make some room. And let's also erase this here. Okay. Now let's just try 1 times 3 and 1 times 5. So 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 5 is 5. So if we put a 3 here and a 5 here, is that going to work? Well, yeah, because negative 3 plus negative 5 is negative 3 minus 5, which gives us negative 8, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so that's good. So let's go ahead and erase this. So now we're going to use the negative 3 and the negative 5 to split up the negative 8x here. So negative 8x equals negative 3x minus 5x. So then this quadratic expression that we have here becomes 3x squared minus 3x minus 5x, and then plus 5 is still plus 5. Okay, so let's get rid of this over here. Now, again, we're just going to factor by grouping. So we're going to group these two guys together, and then these guys together, and separately factor by grouping. So if we come off to the side over here, 3x squared minus 3x. What's the greatest common factor here? Well, 3 and 3, so the greatest common factor there is just 3. It's the same number. X squared and x, the greatest common factor for the variable parts is just x. So the greatest common factor for this whole mini algebraic expression here is 3x. So 3x squared minus 3x. If we factor out this 3x, what do we have left? Well, if we take 3x squared and factor out or divide by 3x, then what's left is just x. And if we take a 3x and factor or divide by a 3x, what's left is just 1. And then minus 1 because of the minus sign right here. So far, what we have here is 3x times the quantity x minus 1. Now, we could do the same thing again here, but notice this is a little simpler. So we just have minus 5x plus 5. So what we want to do, remember, because we have x minus 1 right here, we want to make sure that we end up with x minus 1 in here. So what can we pull out? Well, if we pull out a minus 5, then we'll be good, right? Because minus 5 times x minus 1 equals minus 5x plus 5. And minus 5x plus 5, notice that's exactly what we have right here. So, oops. So if we factor out a negative 5, okay, if we factor out that negative 5 right there, here, if we pull out that negative 5, we're going to have the x minus 1 left over, which is exactly what we want. And now, the last step in factoring by grouping is we say, okay, we have one term here and one term here, and these terms have a factor in common, and that factor is x minus 1. So let's pull out that common factor. First, let's make some room. So let's go ahead and pull out that common factor. And then when we do that, what are we going to get? We're going to end up with the quantity 3x minus 5 multiplied by the quantity x minus 1. Okay, so again, 3x, then minus 5 gives us the minus 5 here. And then x minus 1 is that common factor that we pulled out. So 3x squared minus 8x plus 5, we can factor that into 3x minus 5 times x minus 1.